at the loss of a child, it's like half of you doesn't exist anymore, you know? But you know what? I believe everything happens to us for a reason. What God wants. Maybe because we're supposed to help someone else.
Maybe we're supposed to help someone else. This is Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God, those moments when heaven and earth collide and we see God, we see His hand reaching out to us, attempting to get our attention, inviting us into a closer relationship. Here we share stories of encounter with angels, divine intervention, prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences, big and little, God incidents. I'm your host, Trapper Jack. Welcome, episode 147, Healing the Broken. I got a Valentine's card from God. I don't know. Do you want to hear it? Okay, just checking. Okay, it's beautiful. It's, as you can imagine, it's pretty phenomenal. I don't know what he paid for this, but anyway, here's the. It's got a big heart on the front, and by the way, and I'm publishing on Valentine's Day, which happens to be a Sunday. Kind of late this week, aren't I? Normally these things come out on Thursdays, but that's what the card has to do with. Anyway, it's got a big heart on the front, and inside it says "Love you, man," because guys, we always have to insert the word "man." Love you, man. And then it says your new publishing date is Sunday for the Touched by Heaven podcast. It's always been Thursday. Well, it kind of makes sense, a faith-based podcast, Sundays and all that, so it kind of makes sense. But this also links us to a year ago on Valentine's Day. Something very sad happened. Young boy, 14, passed away. His name is Brian. I'd like to dedicate this episode to Brian, and special prayers to his parents, his family. It was a year ago today. Something so extraordinary happened when he died, just before he died. Spectacular, touched by heaven moment in which it was such a gift from God to this family through Brian. Extraordinary. Now, before we get there, I want you to be introduced again to Anthony Busetti, who's back in episode 44, an episode called The Escape Room. I was recently listening to old podcasts, and I heard that one, and I thought I should check on Anthony again. So I've contacted him again because what he was experiencing back in episode 44, he's had more stories to tell. So first, I'm going to play just a few minutes from episode 44 to kind of set the stage, what was going on then, and then bring it forward here to what's going on now. But back in episode 44, he started talking about this dream he had. You could have this dream. I could have had this dream. It's universal.
I see Jesus' face. He's looking at me. He's got these blue piercing eyes and with a smile, and he walks over to me. He puts his right arm around me and he says, my son, he goes, today's an important day for you. He goes, today you're going on a journey. And I looked at him and was like, well, what do you mean? What kind of a journey? He goes, come with me and I'll show you. So we walk and we get to this path. It's like a circle. And in the middle, it's surrounded by, it's got all these flowers. He goes, your journey begins here. He goes, you will walk around this path and you will end exactly where you are now. And I said, but I don't understand. What kind of journey? And he smiles at me. He goes, on this journey, he goes, you will experience moments of great sadness, and you'll also experience moments of great happiness. He goes, you'll have to walk through the darkness to get to the light. And but he said, I must warn you. He goes, along this journey, times of your greatest sadness, there'll be times where you won't believe in me. You'll call me names. You'll hate me. You'll negate me in front of people you know. And he said, you'll believe in the devil more than you will me. And I said, well, this sounds like a terrible journey. I don't want to go on this journey. He goes, no, you must. He goes, because only by going on this journey will you experience eternal happiness. I said, okay. I said, if you say I must go, then, I don't doubt you. But he said, but when you begin this journey, he goes, you won't see me like you see me now. He goes, I will be with you in spirit. He goes, only when you finish this journey, he goes, will you see me like you do now? So I'm crying, and he goes, he says to me, he goes, don't worry, my son. He goes, I will be with you every step of the way. So I said, okay. So as I put one foot forward onto this path, and I looked at it, I was like, okay, I can do it in a minute or two. It didn't look like a very big path. As soon as I placed my one foot in, I felt like cold, like goosebumps on my arms. Like I didn't have that feeling of serenity that I felt when I was, on that regular path.
This feels like the Jesus pep talk before we come into this world. Think about this. You see me now, you'll see me later, but not during this life. During this life, we're not seeing Jesus. But he told us, I'm with you every step of the way. And he's telling us, there'll be times you don't believe in me. There'll be times you believe more in the devil than you do in me. What is that? When do we do that? Well, every time something goes wrong, who do we blame? And whose fault is it really? For some reason we do that, don't we? Why did you do that? Why did you allow that? And we get all mad at God, and who are we believing? In that moment, we're believing the devil, who says, yeah, it's God's fault. Look what he let you down, didn't he? He let you down. And we're believing him. We believe more in the devil than we do in God. We need to understand every bit of suffering, death itself, all sin, war, jealousy, envy, hate, name it, anger, all of it is because of that influence of the ruler of this world. And when we blame God, we believe more in the devil than we do in God. Isn't that something? He's right.
Yeah, it was so weird that when I woke up, I smelled the smell of the flowers that I smelled wherever I was. And I told my wife, I said, man, I got to tell you about this dream I had. It wasn't too long after, that my son had passed away. Because after losing my 3-year-old son.
Yeah, the tragedy. His son, Reno, R-I-N-O, his son, Reno, passed.
Basically, the kids were already out in the lake. There's a lake behind our house. Then my wife, I hear some screams in the backyard. My wife had found them in the lake. So yeah, that was very hard for me because nothing can prepare you for that in life.
Was Jesus right in the dream?
I was angry. A little bit, because I said, God, I said, you gave me this child, but you took him away at 3 years old. I said, why did you do this? I said, you ruined my life. I said, how can I go on? They always say we have this angel that will save us, that will steer us from harm, this guardian angel. I said, why didn't that happen? Why didn't it happen? And then I believe in him so much, so much. And I know that he's sending me signs all the time. Like my neighbor, she says she was in the coffee aisle, and behind her there was the bread, This loaf of bread hit me in the shoulder. She goes, and I turn around thinking that maybe, somebody threw it at me. So there's no one there, so I pick it up. And I put it back on the shelf. And I said, there's no way that this bread could have flew off that shelf. Another loaf of bread of the same brand hit me in the shoulder again. He goes, and this time there was this lady, putting things away on the shelf. She saw it. Her mouth was open. She goes, I've seen it, but I don't believe it. But here's the thing, Trapper. My son loved that Pepperidge Farm cinnamon swirl bread, right? I said, well, what kind of bread was it? And I said, because my son liked that. And we said Pepperidge Farm cinnamon swirl bread at the same time. My wife, she was, as I was telling her about all these dreams that I was having about our son, so she went to the cemetery on Reno's gravestone. We had, because my son liked trains, so we had a train engraved. She saw the train colored in with like a blue crayon, like almost like a little child had scribbled it. And then there was 3 lines on his picture, because we have this little oval thing with his picture on the stone. And there was 3 lines, also done with this blue crayon. So I said, well, you know what? Let me go over there. I'll grab some stuff and to clean the stone. I go there, Trapper. It was probably not even an hour later. There was nothing on that stone. I mean, it was clean as can be. And then it automatically occurred to me. I said, you know what? That was a sign for you to see, and all that. And I look in the clouds, and in the clouds, Trapper, his name is written in the clouds. I took a picture of it. But as I started to take a picture of it, the O started to break away, and the letters were kind of like, you could still make out the R, the I, and the N started to close in on itself, and the O started to break apart. I listened to your podcast, but I also listened to one with George Noory where you always talk about the signs that God gives us, and that always makes me feel strong because without God in our life, we're really nothing. There's nothing to look forward to. Trevor, who would, like you said, who would ever think that blindness is a blessing, right? And for me, who I would have thought that losing my child would make me think in this way, because I believe in God, and I said, God, thank you for the way that you did it. I said, but since you did it like this, my wife and I has brought us closer together with my oldest son. We're more of a family, and we don't argue, because you know what, Trapper? After you lose a son, there's nothing that you can argue about that compares to losing a son. And I will, and every time, Trapper, I do something like someone cuts me off, I say, God, protect them. Where before I'd be like, oh, I'd give them, I'd get so angry, and I'd try to, do so, because they made me mad, But now I'm like, you know what, God, they must be in a hurry. Watch out for them.
That was back in episode 44, an episode called The Escape Room, Anthony Busetti, who will tell you that prior to all of this, his relationship with God was very fringe, distant. And since then, quite a transformation as God has just blessed. You got just a few of the signs. If you go back, you'll hear all this multitude of signs that brought Anthony closer to God, these touched by heaven moments. Okay, so now, a while back, I called Anthony. I don't know, I just got a nudge to see, what's new, and he more signs that, again, these touched by heaven moments that bring him in even closer. But it's interesting. Our title again, Healing the Broken. Sometimes we are part of healing somebody else. God sends us. He brings us in. We get to feel that love, and then he sends us out to do some work, and that's what's happened since.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Trapper, how are you?
I'm good. You still in the car? Are you home?
No, I am home. I am home.
All right, very good. Where were you going today? What exciting things were you doing?
We went to the North Carolina Transportation Museum.
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah, let's go. We went with another couple, who had also lost a child,
You mentioned in your email, is this the one who lost the 14-year-old or somebody else?
Yes. Yes, they're the same ones.
Well, what happened with that?
It was actually February 14th of 2020. Their son, he wanted to go, since he got 100 on his test. He said to his parents, Mom, can I go and play with my friends since I got 100 on my test? And she was a little reluctant. She's like, well, your dad is bringing some stuff home for Valentine's Day. And, we really want you home. And he's like, oh, please, please, please. So, they said, okay. And what happened is he was with his friend. He was crossing the road to go to play at the school. And a car came the other way. He didn't see him and hit him. And so
and how did you guys connect? How did they hear about your loss?
What was crazy about it is I remember that where my son is buried, there, the funeral, how they set up a tent for other people to be buried there. And I said to myself one day, I said, I wonder if this is where that little boy is going to be buried as well, And it was that boy, because, the name was on the marker. So one day I was waxing my car, and I just said to my wife, I said, you know what? I said, I grab our other son. And I said, we're going to the cemetery. We're going to go see Reno. And so with the wax still on the car, we go to the cemetery. And I'm visiting, we're there visiting with my son, at the gravesite there. And then here comes the parents of that other child. And so we're walking towards the car, and I said to my wife, I said, I really should go talk to him. And she goes, go for it. And so I did. I said, hi. I said, you don't know me. I said, but my son is buried right here. And I said, I just want to give you my condolences because as a father, I know what it feels like to lose a son. And I'll tell you, from then on, we connected and we became best friends, Um, it's almost like it was meant to be.
I have no, I have no doubt, Anthony. I have absolutely no doubt it was meant to be.
So I said to God one day, I said, God, I said, let me meet someone who's going through the same thing that I'm going through, that knows what it's like to feel the loss of a son. And there's he puts this guy. His name is Brian, and we meet at the cemetery.
No
And
accident. Yeah.
we're the same age. We like the same movies. We're both from New York. We like the same type of food. Everything. Trapper, sometimes it's so hard, to find a good, true friend. It takes years, sometimes a lifetime to meet a friend like that. And we connected instantly. Um, I talked to my friend about you. His story is very phenomenal because, basically what happened, they airlifted him to the hospital, and when they pulled him off life support because they said that his spinal cord was detached from the neck, right from the spine. From right from below the neck, And when they disconnected the life support, his son got out of bed, looked at his mother, opened his eyes, and waved to her.
What?
Yeah, I'm telling you because they said if he does survive, the doctor said if he does survive, which is impossible, he goes he'll be a paraplegic. He can only lay in the bed. He'll never be able to get up. And when they disconnected, and the wife was there, and her father-in-law, because my friend, he said, Anthony, I couldn't bear to see that when they took him off life support. He goes, I had to leave the room. He goes, now I wish I was there. She came out, even a nurse that was there came out of the room screaming, calling for the doctor. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. And the doctor said, I believe it. I know it's impossible. You cannot just, get up from the bed and move your head, turn your head and wave.
Oh,
And
who
then
was he waving to?
his mother, because his mother was sitting right next to him as they disconnected the life support.
So his mom was in the room seeing this.
His mother, the nurse, and my friend's father.
My
Three people
gosh.
saw it. Yeah.
So he's totally disconnected. Brain is disconnected from body, basically.
Yes, his eyes were closed. They said he's.
And he gets up out of bed, waves at them, and then
Wait,
what?
yeah.
And then what?
Well, he turns his head, opens his eyes, and then with his left hand he gives a wave, and then he slowly, goes down back into the bed.
Holy
Lies down.
man.
I'm telling you, I said, wow. I said, I said your story is even more incredible than mine. Trapper, in fact, his son that passed away, his birthday is the same day as my oldest son
Oh
that
my
we're
God.
celebrating on Monday. But
Unbelievable.
I told him, I said, Brian, I said, as a friend, I said, I want you to come over, not only to celebrate my son's birthday, but I want to celebrate your son's birthday because he's always here, you know, because I feel like, I can't abandon him because he's like, Anthony, that's going to be the toughest day. And I said, I know it is because I went through it. I know what it feels like.
Well, how
So
old would Reno be now? How old would he be?
Rena would be 5.
Okay, he was 3, right, when he
Yes.
died.
I always say that, for us, we can only see as far as our eyes will let us see. Like, if we're in a car, we can only see, to the horizon. We can't see what's coming over that hill, you know, and until when we get there, it's like, right now it's been 2 years since, Reno's been in heaven. And I'll tell you, Trapper, I, I can look back and I say, wow, I gained so much. I gained wisdom from this. I learned so much more about God and Jesus.
A quick break right about here in this episode of Touched by Heaven, Healing the Broken, to do a Patreon shout out, and this is so fitting for this episode in particular. Thank you, Jessica Bell. Jessica Bell is helping us out on a monthly basis through Patreon. We appreciate that so much, Jessica. I was talking to Jessica a while back, and she was telling me her story, which may run in a future episode, but part of her story has to do with several miscarriages. And the reason, and obviously there's a loss there too, and something that since my conversation with Jessica that I have found out, the science of this is phenomenal. There's something called fetal microchimerism. I think I got that right. Fetal microchimerism. What is that? Well, ladies, you may want to know, and gentlemen, in the first trimester of every pregnancy, there is an exchange of cells between mom and child. And those cells stay in, for example, the child's cells sent to the mom, I think up to 500,000 or something. Anyway, those cells stay in the mom for the rest of her life. And they're transferred in the first trimester. And they've also found that in those cells, they're like healing cells. If there's a wound or if there's an attack on your body, those cells head to the problem from your child for the rest of your life. Amazing. Fetal microchimerism. So even if that pregnancy doesn't go to term, regardless of what ends it, miscarriage or, regardless, that child is helping your life, your health for the rest of your life. Isn't that amazing? You ever hear of this before? Isn't that amazing? So what I'm going to do is in this on the show notes of this episode, if you come here to episode 147, there's a little bit of that in a talk that a Father Don Calloway gave. It's a Mary talk. So if you want to know more about Mary and why we love Mary, it's in there. And then there's also this little bit about 38th minute in or so. He talks about this science, which this is new to me, but I think it's so exciting. And then the mom cells, by the way, are also transferred to the child. And so for the rest of that child's life, they have mom and those cells working to help heal them. There's this exchange that happens in the first trimester. Just a great message from God, I think. Just very cool stuff. So all this is in episode 147 in this link. But again, thank you, Jessica Bell. I just thought you might want to know that all of your children are still with you. Kind of cool, isn't it? And thank you again for your support through Patreon. If you'd like to help us out, come here to episode 147 or go to patreon.com and search for Trapper Jack. And if you can help us out on a monthly basis, we so appreciate it. Thank you so much. Now, let's get back to this episode, Healing the Broken, here on Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God. And you mentioned, since we've talked, which is a couple of years ago now, I guess.
Yeah.
Other experiences for you? Other ways you've kind of...
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to start with this, because I left that one job I had when I was talking to you. Mm-hmm. And I got a job at the airport doing construction work there. And, I was working night shifts. So it was like from 11 o'clock at night till 7 in the morning. I said, wow. I said, the only thing that I miss about this is I won't be able to look in the clouds and see, how I saw Reno's name, and that was spelled out for me. And so one night, me and a couple of guys, we would walk around the terminal because during the wintertime things are slow, there's not much going on. And on the floor as I'm walking, and there's nobody there, it's about midnight, I see a cross with Jesus on it, a little small cross, on the floor, and it's face up. And so I pick it up and I'm like, I wonder if this is a sign that God is saying, hey, I'm always with you. So then a month later, we're walking again. And on this table where, people plug in their iPads and laptops and all that, there's this necklace that's, strung out on this table. So I go over there and there's only one guy that's leaning up against this table, no one else. I said, excuse me, sir. I said, does this necklace belong to you? He turns around at me and says, nope, never saw it before in my life. And he walks away. I start looking at it, right? It's like a circle. and it says "Believe in miracles," right? And then there's this other pendant that hangs from inside this circle. It says Saint Anthony's, the Saint of Miracles. What are the odds, right? This thing says Saint Anthony's, the Saint of Miracles,
Yes, Anthony.
and then in big letters on the front it says "Believe in miracles."
Yeah.
And I, you know what? And I've got it now hanging in my rearview mirror of my truck.
Nice. Nice. I love it.
And then just the other day, I was outside, and I look in the sky, and there's his name written in the clouds. And
Again.
yeah, again. So I take a picture of it, and I show my wife. And I didn't tell her about it, because as soon as I took a picture, it started to break up,
Mhm.
So I said to my wife, I said, "Look at this. What?" And she goes, "That's Reno."
No doubt in her mind, you weren't seeing things.
No, no, exactly. And she goes, "I can see that clear as day." So that made me feel good. Those little nudges that say, "Hey, Dad, I'm still here." Then I had a dream uh, where I was. He came back, because Trapper, my wife lost her mother 2 months before Reno passed. So it was really hard for her. She didn't even get to grieve for her mother, and then Reno passed. But anyway, I have this dream where she comes into my dream, and she goes, "Listen, we're only here for a little while. I'm going to leave Reno here with you. I got to go check on some things, and then I'll be back to pick him up." I said, "Okay." And
Okay.
I said, yeah. So I'm calling everyone, and I'm like, "Hey, you got to come see my son. My son's back. He's only here for a little while." I said, "You got to come see him. You got to come see him." Yeah, I was just so happy, that he was back.
And could you see him?
Oh yeah, I saw him.
Yeah.
I saw him. And you know what was crazy is before he left, he said, "Dada, find my doll. Find my doll." I said, "Okay." I said, "Let me see it." So I said, in order for me to remember this, I got to make sure I know how to tell my wife and how to describe this. I said, "Okay, it looks like a gingerbread from the front, but if I look at it from the side, it looks like an ice cream sandwich." As crazy as it sounds, but I told my wife that. I said, I just had the craziest, I mean, the greatest dream I've ever had. I said, "Your mother was in the dream with Reno. She came and she dropped Reno off." I said, "But Reno said to me, I got to find his doll." She goes, "What doll are you talking about?" I said, "It looks like a gingerbread from the front, but an ice cream sandwich from the side." So she got up, went downstairs, came back, goes, "Is this it?" I said, "Yeah." I couldn't believe it. I said, "That's exactly what I saw." And I never saw that ever. I told her, I said, "Where'd he get this?" He goes, "Oh, his friend across the street gave it to him." And I never saw that doll before.
And why do you think? Do you think it was just more confirmation? I mean, why you were kind of sent on a chase to go find this thing, a little scavenger hunt, just again,
Yeah.
what? Just to prove the point again? Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Yes.
Yeah, heaven.
Yeah.
I'm in heaven. I'm fine. All's good.
Yeah.
The whole thing, right?
Absolutely. Because I was I started crying when my wife showed it to me. She goes, "Is this the one you saw?" And I broke down in tears. I said, "Yeah,
Wow.
that's the one."
He's
So,
he's still helping you. God is still helping you.
oh, he is. And you know what, Trapper? I think the best one is when he made me meet my friend Brian, because I'll tell you, without him, I always say we're like an A-frame. I lean on him when I'm weak, and he's strong, and he leans on me when I'm strong and he's weak.
That's a great friendship. Yeah, people go through their entire lives without having that.
Yeah. Trapper, I didn't know if I told you. Remember I told you how my son was playing with that little plastic fish?
Yeah, yeah.
Did I tell you that I had lost it? I always keep it in my pocket, and my using my left hand pocket. That way, I put my phone in my right hand pocket. That way, I know I won't lose it. Well, one day I was doing some yard work, and I lost it. And I remember that night. I said, "Oh my God, where's that fish?" So I went through my pants that I was wearing, and it wasn't in there. And I said, "My God, don't let me lose this fish. This is what my son was holding on to that Friday before he passed, And so anyway, I told the neighborhood kids, I said, listen, I'll give you $50, whoever finds this fish. I said, that's how much it means to me that I was going to pay $50. I didn't care. And, but anyways, you know what? Nobody found it. 3 months later, Trapper, the fish shows up on a rock right near the water where my son, was found, laying on this piece of rock. And, I couldn't believe it. I called my wife. I said, look at the fish. I said, and I took out my phone and I took a picture of it, just exactly how it was. I said, there's no way that this fish could have been here the whole time, because it was right near the water. Even a little wave would have washed it, off the rock.
That's crazy.
3 months, Trapper. I called my son because I said, everyone's got to see this. And I said, look at where this fish is. And 3 months later, it's laying on this piece of riprap, like someone had placed it there.
And just sit there for you. Wow.
Yeah, Trapper, I know, you don't believe it, but I'm going to send you that picture, because you have to see it. And same thing with that little cross and that necklace that I found.
Yeah.
And the name as well,
There you go.
Because Trapper, I'm a person that I have to see things in order to believe it, but the fish was absolutely amazing. And isn't the fish represent Jesus?
If you drew that, let's say, in the dust on the ground, a fish, and the other person responded by doing the same, it was kind of like we're both Christians. It was an early sign of Christianity, secret sign, because it was against the law to be a Christian then. So they had all these secret ways of kind of identifying themselves, and the symbol of the fish, is that sign.
Right.
So, yeah, definitely. So, beautiful. That's beautiful. All this is beautiful, Anthony. This is all beautiful.
It is. I'll tell you, and I love it.
You mentioned something on our first call. You said if anybody going through the same thing needs your help, to just go ahead and connect you. Is that still open?
Oh, absolutely. Because if I can help them, or just by listening, I'm there. I am, Trapper, because, the loss of a parent, somehow we can handle that. We understand that. But boy, the loss of a child, it's like half of you doesn't exist anymore. It's it's nothing makes sense. It's like the letters of the alphabet go A, B, C, D. Well, it's like someone's trying to rearrange them and say, no, this is how it's supposed to be. And you say, well, wait a minute, I'm supposed to go before my kids, not my kids before me. But you know what? I believe everything happens to us for a reason. What God wants, maybe because we're supposed to help someone else.
Fortunately, there will be a day when everything will be understood, where we get to see all the different puzzle pieces, including Reno, of how that puzzle piece, all of us are all connected to each other, and thankfully we'll all finally understand what the puzzle piece was. Because in the moment, nothing makes sense. In the moment, none of this. In the moment, it can look like just one event, as they say, one damn thing after another. But until you pull back and see what the work is He's doing, then we'll be able to see how it's all interconnected. Because right now, it just looks like disconnected. And why did I have to go through that? And there's a reason.
Yeah, exactly. I always say God always lights up a few steps in front of you. He doesn't light up the whole entire path, only the few steps.
And that's part of developing our faith too. That has a benefit too, that we don't know everything. We get enough that we go, okay, that's enough. Thank you. Thank you at least for that. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite parts of your story was your initial dream shortly before Reno died of Jesus.
Oh yeah, with Jesus.
Jesus walk. You're going to go in there, and it looked like, what's this short little walk? This is nothing. What do you mean going on this walk? And I'm going to have to, what is it? You have to go through the darkness to get to the light. None of this makes sense. And then suddenly all of it makes sense. Every bit of it makes sense.
And Trevor, that was a week before he passed, and I had that dream, we're here to learn. and help people along the way. And because you know what I always say, before I always wanted to be first. When I had my son, I always wanted to be first with everything. But you know what? That's not what I'm concerned about now. You know what I want to do? I want to hold hands with everybody. And I said, you know what? Let's cross the finish line together. It's not about being first, but helping one another get across that finish line, as one.
The bottom line of your message in Reno is that God's got him. He keeps showing you he's got him.
Yeah.
He keeps just showing you again and again. And now Brian, it's perfect.
Yeah. I'll tell you. And I thank you, Trapper, because when I heard you on Coast to Coast, I said, I got to get in touch with Trapper and tell him my story because, amazing things were happening and I didn't know how to handle, I didn't know who to speak to because, some people you spoke to would say, yeah, they wouldn't believe you. And I said, I know that what I experienced is true and is real,
Yep, sure is. Sure is. All right. Anything else? Any other messages you want to pass on?
I just want to say, hey, I know what it feels like and I'm here.
Okay. They contact me at touchedbyheaven.net and
Yes.
I'll connect you.
Yes.
In a most difficult time. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I will get Brian to send you a message because their story is phenomenal as well.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds like it. My gosh, what a great sign at the end. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I tell you, yeah.
Medically impossible. Completely impossible.
Oh, absolutely.
That's not a spasm.
No, exactly, because he was laying still in that bed.
And disconnected. The brain is disconnected
Yes.
from the spinal cord.
Yes. Yep. And he got up, turned his head, looked to his mother, opened his eyes, and waved. Yeah, she was like, "Get somebody in here! Get somebody in here!" And the nurse is running down the hallway saying, "It's a miracle! It's a miracle! It's a miracle!"
And that was that. And that was that.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was that. And Trapper, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I appreciate it so much.
God bless you. Thanks again, Anthony. And again, his invitation, if you have suffered a loss, would like to talk to Anthony, get a hold of me here at touchedbyheaven.net and I will connect you. But sometimes God sends us to help in that healing of the broken. And certainly Anthony is doing exactly that. What is your story? There's an angel encounter. Oh, I'm still playing with the Valentine's card that God sent. It's amazing, isn't it? Just really, what did he spend on this? My God, it's beautiful. What is your story? Come here to episode. Oh, just come here to touchedbyheaven.net and get a hold of me, would you? Angel encounter, near-death experiences, divine intervention, whatever it is. Love to hear from you here at touchedbyheaven.net. And thank you again for your support through Patreon. You can come here to episode 147 or go to patreon.com and search for Trapper Jack. Oh, and thanks, too, for keeping us a 5-star podcast. Appreciate that by your ratings and reviews inside your podcast app. How about we do this again next week, which probably is going to come out on a Sunday. I'm thinking this card is onto something. And whenever you're listening to this, it's the perfect day. See you next week here at Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack.